Hey everyone, and welcome back to Iron Wrath. Before we begin, I want to remind you all that this was written before Fallout 4 came out, years actually, and it's an older project of mine. This story takes place after the events of all the games, not including Fallout 4. It takes place as if all the quote unquote perfect endings were achieved and the nation's being rebuilt. There is a beautiful peace between all the factions of the Wasteland. I won't say any more since that could spoil things. But keep that in mind as I tell the story. But without further ado, I hope you enjoy Part 2 of Iron Wrath. Part 2 Hope. Weeks pass as the railway makes its way north, meeting with the crew that was building it south. They met in Cherry Bend, a small town that is almost a resemblance of the world before the bombs fell. There was a small ceremony that night, and the two railways were joined. Songs, food, drink, it was all so alien to Eric Sands. He took no part in the festivities as he watched over everything from his perch atop the old water tower, holding his new marksman rifle close to him in case trouble arose. After taking the position on the security force for Odysseus, Eric thought there would have been more trouble during the time that passed. But it seems that the Ghoul Claw, as they came to call it, was the only real threat. There was the occasional Rad Scorpion attack, but nothing dire. In fact, under Eric's watch, no one lost their lives. Odysseus climbs up and joins Eric. He pulls out an old bottle of whiskey and offers it to him. No, I'm fine, thank you, Eric says, watching the distance. The old man chuckles. Come on, son. You should be down there celebrating too. At least have a drink. Eric slowly smiles and takes the bottle. So what now? The railroad is finished, isn't it? That quick to be out of a job? Odysseus jokes. Eric laughs, taking a sip of the whiskey, knocking it back with ease. God, no. This is the best job I've had yet. I just want to know how much longer I'll have it. The old man nods. Well, no need to worry. We'll be taking a short break and then heading further north to finish the railroad up there. The final leg of the journey, so to speak. Eric nods and looks over at the town of Cherry Bend. It's quaint, again, something seems familiar to him. It's all so strange to me. I grew up atop a rusted out building, a village in the sky. It was chaotic up there, crime and whatnot. It's so odd seeing a place like this. It's like the war never happened here. Odysseus nods understandingly. I was the same way when I first came here. Seeing parts of the world the wasteland doesn't touch is, well, unique. It's why I settled down here, bought myself a house, fixed it up, called it home. Eric smiles, hearing that there is still hope in the land scorched in radiation. So what do I need to know about this place, since it seems I'll be my home for a while? The old man points to a larger building, an old warehouse from long ago. Well, that's the market. If you can think of it, they sell it there. Sally, she's a girl your age. Well, she can make the best tasting Brahmin stew. She let it slip to me that she uses Nuka-Cola Quantum in it. He points to another building, an old gas station that is missing its pumps. That's Rave's place. He is, well, strange. He's a town gunsmith. He's a good guy for a ghoul. Cool? Eric questions, turning to look at Odysseus. Yeah, don't let that cloud your decision, son. I've met a lot of good men and women who were ghouls. Can learn a lot from them since a good amount of them were here since the war. Eric takes another swig of whiskey. Funny, the only ghoul I ever met tried to rip my face off. Even this glowing bastard, she was a pain to put down. Feral ghouls. It happens to some. They lose touch with who they were and turn into those monsters. Shame, really. Haven't people been trying to find a cure for it, for ghoulification? Eric asks. Odysseus nods. I've heard they tried, but the only thing that works is a bullet to the head, sadly. A somber tone falls over them now. The topic of death can do that to any conversation. The old man points to another building, a small home with a garage attached to the side. It's painted a faded white and some plants grow in a garden on the outside. And that is where you'll be staying, Eric. That's my house. I want you to be my guest. Are you sure? I'm happy staying with the workers, Eric says, looking at the small house, wondering what a real home feels like. Nonsense. You slept in a bedroll for weeks. God knows what before you met up with us. You deserve a good night's rest in a real bed. You can have my spare room. Never actually gone into it, he says with hearty laughter. Eric smiles more, something he rarely did, but he has been doing more since meeting up with the railroad. Thank you, Odysseus. I'll gladly be your guest. He looks over the town once more, and none of it makes sense. How does this place stay safe? It's a beacon almost, and from the way it looks, easily taken over by a group of raiders. Well, different people will give you different answers, but the truth, everyone owns a weapon of some sort, and we are off the beaten path. Though the stories of an armored hero may deter some. Armored hero? Eric asks, almost laughing at the thought. Odysseus shrugs. It's an old story. I'm not the best person to ask. Maybe someone in the market can tell you better than I could. I'll be sure to do that when I try the stew. The next morning, the market is alive with voices and clanging of caps. People walk and browse the items for sale, buying what they can afford and oogling what they can't. Eric walks the path between the stalls with his goggles around his neck. The indoor market reminds him of the rooftops of Skyrise, with the market stall in the center of their little settlement. He makes his way to a counter with a fair-skinned, freckle-faced girl behind it stirring a large vat of stew. He places down 5 bottle caps and smiles at her. "I assume you're Sally?" Eric asks. "Odysseus told me I needed to try the stew." "That I am," she says, taking the caps and getting a bowl from next to the vat. "The old man comes in here almost every week asking for this. Brags about it to everyone," she says with laughter in her voice. "I swear every customer I get is because of him." She places the bowl in front of Eric along with an old silver spoon and tells him to enjoy. She is a comely young woman with auburn hair and bright blue eyes, a form of beauty rarely seen in the wasteland. Odysseus was not exaggerating about the stew, and Eric made sure to tell young Sally just that, causing her freckled face to turn rosy. "So since you know Odysseus, I assume you're with the railroad," Sally says, returning to the stew. "In a way, yes. I'm not a worker. I'm on security." Sally looks over at him and wonders. "Hey, you wouldn't happen to be the one that killed the Deathclaw, would you?" "Does the whole town know already?" he says with a half laugh. "Mostly." She leaves the stew and moves to the counter to talk more quietly. "They just know someone killed a Deathclaw with a stick, and they just don't know who." "It was a flagpole and I got lucky," Eric says, looking up at her. Sally shrugs. "Stick, flagpole, doesn't really matter. You dropped a Deathclaw. That is amazing." Eric smiles. "Well, someone had to kill it. I just was in the right place at the right time." "So modest," she says with a laugh before heading back to turn the stew. As Eric finishes his meal, something Odysseus said comes back to him and he has to ask. "So, I was told this place was protected by an armored hero. What is all that about? Is it true?" Sally looks over her shoulder at Eric. "The Steel Sentinel? It's an old kid story, like the old comic book stories from before. It's almost a legend of this place, I guess you could say." Half disappointed, Eric asks if any of it was true. "Hard to say. Some of the old people in the village swear that the Steel Sentinel saved Cherry Bend multiple times from raiders. But personally, I have never seen it. I think Rave, our gunsmith, would be able to answer this better. He is as old as Cherry Bend." "I'll pay him a visit then. Thank you for the chat, Sally," Eric says as he stands from the counter. "No problem. Don't be a stranger now," she says with a flirtatious tone. The hot wasteland sun beats down as Eric makes his way across the little hamlet to the place he is calling home for a while. The first night he stayed in Odysseus' house, he had to sleep on the floor of his room. The bed was just too soft for him after sleeping on the ground since he started his journey into the railroad. He hopes tonight he can sleep on the bed beneath the covers. He reaches the house, but Odysseus is nowhere to be found outside or in. Eric makes his way around the house. The rooms are sparse with anything. The kitchen has the basic amenities, a living room with a radio and a worn couch. Odysseus' bedroom only having a bed and a dresser, and then there's a locked door leading to the garage. Eric never asked about it, and the old man never mentioned it, and now he is wondering what is behind that locked door. Eric makes his way to the locked door, studying it closely. He pulls out a bobby pin from his pocket and continues to the door. "Eric, what are you doing?" Odysseus says, stepping in from around the corner. He quickly hides the bobby pin and turns to the old man. "I was just curious what was behind the door. You never told me what was in there," Eric says, almost feeling ashamed. "Well, there was this pre-war saying, 'Curiosity killed the cat.' Please, Eric, don't go in there. There is nothing worth showing in the garage." Eric nods and waits quietly for Odysseus to continue. "Don't take offense to it, son. We all have our skeletons, and I prefer mine stayed buried." Eric understands. Everyone has their own reasons for every action and apologize for being curious. Never apologize for being curious. It's how you learn. Just be careful on what it drags you into. The young man nods understandingly. Odysseus sees the shame and the awkwardness of the situation and tries to ease the tension by asking about the stew. "Yes, I made sure to get some. You're right. It's something I've never tasted in the wasteland. I'll be sending Sally business just as much as you do," Eric says quietly and walks past the old man. "Where are you headed now?" "Raves. I want to see what he has for sale. See what he can do to my rifle," Eric says, picking up that said rifle and slinging it over his shoulder. "Be sure you tell him that I sent you. He'll show you his good stock." Eric remembers that as he walks to the other end of Cherry Bend, to an old gas station with a garage attached. The pums are long gone, and inside the garage are racks of weapons and an old ghoul hunched over a lone wanderer motorcycle, trying to bring it back to life. Eric's silent walk, which normally is undetectable, catches the ghoul's attention. He turns and pushes up his welding mask. "What do you need, Smoothskin?" Rave asks, his voice not like other ghouls, holding some of his original voice. "Odysseus said I should come see you. Praised you for being the best gunsmith." Eric says, his voice calm and cool as always. "The old man is very wise. I am the best." The ghoul stands to his feet and dusts himself off. He offers his gloved hand, and Eric accepts it as an equal. Rave takes note of that and is thankful that he is accepted as he has been. "What are you trying to do with that old bike?" Eric asks. Rave looks down at the old machine. He smiles fondly looking at it. "She saved my life when the bombs fell, so I want to return the favor," the old ghoul says, patting the motorcycle. "I was out the morning the commies attacked. Saw the mushroom clouds, and I rode hard and fast and found myself in a drainage pipe with some others who had bad brains to hide. We lived and survived, saw the aftermath, lived through the scorched hell. Then our skin fell off, and we became this," Rave says, motioning to his body. "But this came with long life, and with that wisdom. But enough of that. You came to shop, and I got something you'll like." Eric raises an eyebrow. "That would be?" "A new scope for that battle rifle. A long-range scope." That catches the young man's attention. He slings his rifle over his shoulder, and the old ghoul takes it in his hands. Rave turns it in his hands, examining it. He moves with speed normal hands could never move at. With the rifle now on a workbench, he quickly takes the current scope off and replaces it with a much higher range scope. As Eric takes out caps to pay for the work, Rave throws up his hands in protest, refusing the caps. "Nah, this one's on me. You showed me respect, something we ghouls rarely get." The simple act of kindness Eric showed comes back around and makes him smile. Knowing there could be a glimmer of hope in this hellscape makes the young man smile more. "Thank you, Rave. These caps are still burning a hole in my pocket, so I'll take 50 rounds of 5.56 if you got it." The old ghoul nods with a smile and quickly gets the ammunition, and Eric strikes up idle conversation about the Steel Sentinel. "So, is it all true?" Rave grins as he counts out each round. "There is a truth to it. It's not like those old pre-war comic books like some of the people here want you to think. Long ago, a hero in power armor came through and saved Cherry Bend. Since then, despite what people say, there is no secret Avenger watching over the town. We have people like me, that old bastard, and anyone else who owns a gun to protect us. It's a story that gives hope, and hope is all anyone needs." Hope. Eric mulls over that word as he hands over the caps for the ammunition. It's something that died hundreds of years ago when the world ended in nuclear fire. But yet, it's growing here in a small backwater town. A little seed of hope in a terrible world. "How close are you to getting that running?" Eric says, looking at the old motorcycle. Not as close as I'd like to be. Going to have to find a way to make a new fuel pump for her. Or maybe try and get out and see if I can scavenge one. But I also been working on another project." The old ghoul smiles, thinking about it. "You want to see it, kid?" Eric nods and follows Rave outside of the garage and behind the building. "This is my life's work. I've been rebuilding her, and she's almost ready to fly," Rave says as he looks at the old vertibird half covered under a tarp. Eric looks at the patchwork helicopter. It's rough looking from having been rebuilt, but if Rave is serious about this thing flying, that would be the most impressive feat he has ever seen. "You can fly that? Is it even safe?" Eric says, doubt plaguing in his voice. "I'm a fast learner, and nothing is safe in the wasteland. Having an armored bird, though, well, that will level the playing field a lot." Eric nods, looking at the mounted minigun. Vertibirds were a common sight for him in Skyrise. That was the easiest way of transportation between places in the city. He only flew in one once, on his way out of the city when he turned his back on everything. "All I gotta do is replace the computer and she should fly. I had her started up the other week. Everything works. I have a trader coming in soon with an old Pip-Boy. Got a deal with him and he's going to sell it to me. Going to use it to make this baby fly." Eric smiles, something he rarely does. I would love to see. The sound of gunfire cuts him off, and both he and Rave quickly follow the sounds of a firefight. The sounds are coming from the workers' camp, and they are starting to sound more like a slaughter than a firefight. Eric comes to the crest of the hill first and sees a massacre that is unfolding. An armored rail cart carrying what seems to be 20 strange-looking super mutants crashed into the locomotive that was carrying the rails for the workers. The gruesome passengers have opened fire on the workers, and blood covers most of the tents near the tracks, and bodies of workers are face down in bloody mud. Eric instinctively draws his rifle, and with his new scope he's able to see right into the action from hundreds of yards away. Rave joins him at his side and questions what he is seeing. Mutant raiding party. They're killing everyone, but they're... Eric trails off, not even trusting what he is seeing. About what? Rave asks. Take a look, Eric says, handing over his rifle. The old ghoul looks through the scope and his jaw drops. They're ghouls, but that's... Yeah, impossible, just like a ghoul deathclaw. Rave hands the rifle back over. You'll be more useful here. I'll go down and try to help. Eric nods and goes prone as Rave runs down the hill and into the fray. With his breathing steady and calm, Eric takes aim on his first target, a mutant wielding a fire axe with one hand. It's ripping a blunt blade from the body when the round from Eric's rifle rips a hole through its head. He quickly finds a target, this one sporting a heavy machine gun like it was a simple hunting rifle. Eric squeezes the trigger and watches the top of the mutant's head explode. He wastes no time picking away at the raiding party. With the survivors fighting back, soon they have most of them pushed back to the rail cart they came on. The mutants there are smarter and more heavily armored. They keep the survivors at bay with minigun fire, and Eric can't get a good shot on them thanks to the cart. Green blasts of plasma hit and melt holes in the armor of the cart, more rip through the mutant wielding the minigun. Eric tries to find the survivor who is sporting such a powerful weapon, but they all seem to be confused as he is. More green shots rip through the cart's armor, and Eric traces the shots back to the shooter. The power armor-clad hero moves closer while firing the plasma rifle. Eric watches and studies the armor. It is T-51 power armor, but it is painted a bright blue with red pauldron and a red insignia on the chest. Besides the plasma rifle in the warrior's hands, a large sword forged from a car's bumper is strapped to the back of the armor. The Steel Sentinel, Eric says under his breath and watches the mythical hero. Whoever the Steel Sentinel is, the armored warrior moves as if they had formal training. They are fast and efficient in the bulky armor. The Sentinel never lets up the blast of plasma and takes out a few more mutants who try and poke their disfigured faces above the cover. The one with the minigun stands and lets out a barrage of fire. The bullets rip through the ground and into the Steel Sentinel, and thanks to the armor, doesn't even flinch. The plasma rifle fires 3 blasts off, and it melts the mutant into a terrible pile of goo. Out of ammo for the plasma rifle, the Steel Sentinel swaps weapons and draws the sword that is almost as tall as the power armor-clad warrior. Eric watches, shocked to see his suit of power armor move that fast. The Sentinel leaps onto the armored car and cuts down one of the mutants with ease. With one more swing, another mutant is dead when its head goes flying off the cart. One mutant remains, and it's already up and tackling the Steel Sentinel down off the cart. The mutated mess slams onto the chest with a power fist almost fused onto the end of its grotesque hand. Eric can't get a clear shot and quickly stands and runs down the hill to help and to find out who the Steel Sentinel is. He makes it there just in time and fires a few rounds into the monster's back. The mutant falls onto the Sentinel dead. Eric kneels down and helps the Sentinel sit up, and once fully up, the power armor helmet falls off from the damage, revealing the identity of the hero. Odysseus? Eric says, taking a step back. So much for just a myth. The old man grins and struggles to stand. The suit systems are damaged, making it harder to move. I told you we all have our skeletons, he says with a chuckle. What the hell is going on? First ghoul claws, now super mutant ghouls? You know more about this, old man. Spill it, Eric demands, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. I might know something. I have a hunch. I'll tell you on the way there. And where are we going? Odysseus looks down the tracks. These things came on that cart. That means wherever they came from, it's on this track. So if we follow them, we should find where these super mutants came from. The old man nods. And maybe we'll find answers to what's mutating everything. And that will be it for part 2 of 5 of Iron Wrath. First a ghoul claw, now super ghouls? Something is very wrong in the Empire Wasteland. I am not sure how the schedule for this series will be. This is a bit harder to write than the other fanfictions I've written, and it takes more time to write. So this may be a bi-weekly series, or it goes up if the chapters are done in time. Bi-weekly at the most. I take great pride in my writing and I love doing it for you guys. I always appreciate all feedback, both negative and positive, so leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and share it around. It helps and grows the channel, and I really do appreciate it. Follow me on Twitch to know when all my videos go live, as well as to know when I might be doing something special. And, as always, this has been Black Phoenix. Thanks for watching, everyone.